As I get older, I become more at peace with my body. Yes, it ebbs and flows, and admittedly this year hasn't been so easy, but looking at myself from a bird's eye view, I know that I am the dream of my younger self, poking and prodding, zooming in on all the things that were not quite right about myself. Sometimes I wonder if this is just part of getting older, settling into yourself, getting used to the person looking back at you in the mirror. And other times I wonder if it's a direct product of my environment, or maybe even a reverberating effect from liking my interior self more. Though my queerness has been a part of me for years, it's only been something I've started to reflect on in the near present. As years go on, I drift farther from a life centered by the male gaze. I fall out from friendships that don't carry the same values. I move onwards towards a life powered by my own perception and by connection, not defined by the physical. Nowadays, I find myself in mostly queer spaces around mostly other queer people. I feel a kind of trust and sacredness in these spaces. New York is an enigma in that way. I don't find myself looking at myself through the eyes of men anymore, even when I'm intimate with them. I'm not watching you, watching me, judging myself through the lens of what I think you would want me to be. I feel beautiful and delicate and powerful as I am without being shrunk or contorted to your liking. I feel more resolved about it, unconcerned about those who won't matter. I don't find myself attracted to small-minded people anyways. I think that as I've become more accepting of my queerness, I've just grown fonder of my body. As I observe myself through a queer lens, everything becomes, well, better. For the record, it's taking active effort from me right now to not crawl into these sheets and take a little nap. Number one, I woke up very tired today, and number two, I just got some new bedding from Brooklinen because the girls did rip a hole in my old duvet cover. Fosters are cute as ever, they're sweet as ever, but they are a handful. So it was really good timing that Brooklinen came through to sponsor today's video because I was in need of a little bedroom refresh. But you know what? It's okay. Because you are so cute, you can rip holes in all of my bedding if you want. That's okay. That's your choice. I support a kitten's rights and wrongs. Yes, I do. Oh. I've never had like really nice bedding from a premium brand like Brooklinen before. And honestly, I didn't know that Brooklinen sold a range of different fabrics, not just linen. I'm not the biggest fan of linen bedding because I am a very hot sleeper. But Brooklinen actually sells a range of different fabric types. So if you're more of a cotton girl like me, they have something for you too. And perfecting your bedding is one of those things that feels well worth it, just given the amount of time that you spend in your bed. We spend like 1/3 of our lives in bed. You might as well make this space as comfortable as humanly possible. So I got their classic hardcore sheet bundle, which comes with a duvet cover, 4 pillowcases, a fitted sheet, and a top sheet as well. And the best part about it is you can mix and match which colors come with each of these items to really make your most perfect color palette. And it's great because you can do it all online, mix and match from the comfort of your own home. Anyways, it really is my favorite time of the day. Winding down, throw on a movie. I'm surrounded by 3 cats all at once. So it's been really nice to give it a little bit of a refresh. Because listen, it's not only me that's spending a lot of time in this bed, it's also 3 other precious little kittens that I want to have the most comfortable sleep of their whole lives as well. So if you're in the market for some new bedding and want to test out Brooklinen for yourself, they are offering a special discount to viewers of my channel with 15% off your first order. So just go ahead and click the link in the description of this video, grab that discount, grab yourself a gorgeous new bedding and sheet set. And thank you again to Brooklinen for sponsoring today's video and coming to save the day when my kittens ripped a hole in my bedding. I've been working on sewing on all of my fun patches to this Lads on Tour tote bag that I got. I just ordered the tote bag off Etsy and I've been collecting all of these patches over the last like 2 years. Patches and pins. This isn't even close to all of them. I've been buying a new patch for me and my trivia team every time we place in trivia, which used to be few and far between, but these days we've been doing so well that I have stopped buying patches because I was just starting to sink money into this shit. So these patches are like a little scrapbook of memories from when we were first starting to get into trivia and get good at it. This first place ribbon was the first one that I ever got for us. It was the first time we came in first place, which was the first time we placed at any level. This coffee cup was for the first time we came in second place, because when you come in second place at our bar, you get a bag of coffee beans. I was originally gonna sew them onto my Letterman jacket, but there's honestly just so many of them, and I don't know how well any of them are really gonna match in like a jacket. So I decided to put all my fun patches on this tote bag, and then I'm putting my championship patches on the jacket to really keep it authentic. There's so many that I still need to sew on though. Like I have this one, the blue Mario shell, and I got this one for a game where we swooped in at the last second and came in first. I think we were in like 5th the whole game, and then the last round we swooped in and we absolutely obliterated everyone. Blue shell. A few weeks ago on my podcast, something came up where I was reflecting on how embracing my attraction to other women actually helped my own self-esteem. I don't know. This is an interesting thought. I've never thought about this before. I have to think about it more. But I wonder if part of like acknowledging and accepting my attraction to women helped with my own perception of my own body. In like acknowledging my attraction to other women, I was able to see myself as being more beautiful. There's probably some truth there, because I feel like I love how every set of boobs looks. I've never looked at a set of boobs and thought, not fantastic. I look at a boob and I'm like, that's great. You know, like I've never once in my life been like, oh, those boobs are just not good. Like, no, they're all great. Every set of boobs is fantastic. Like there's sincerely every which way type of boob, every genre, every shape, every size, every areola. Like it's a boob, mama. Like we're all so lucky to be in the presence of them. Let's not get it twisted. And in some ways I feel like this is something that had already taken effect before I was in a place where I was publicly embracing my attraction to women. I think even when I was still in more of a questioning and discovery phase, a big part of learning to be kinder to myself was noticing how I never had negative thoughts about other women the way that I had them about myself. So I think in observation of myself and how little I find myself judging other people's appearances, that in itself I think has helped me, because I'm like, well, surely I am not unique in this. That seems far too self-congratulatory to think that I would be the only person that's not an asshole. So I think even before I had really embraced my queerness, this was already something that was true about myself. But I do think that that was almost amplified times 10 when I really started embracing my queerness. Is this making sense? It's like the lack of judgment was one thing, but then the outward appreciation was another thing. I think for a while I was just like, oh, I think I just love being a woman. I love indulging in my femininity. I love how fun it is to be a woman. I love the culture of womanhood, of sisterhood. I love other women in like genuine appreciation. But it did reach a point where it was like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. But in some weird way, it does feel like allowing myself the freedom to indulge deeper and explore my attraction to women, to embrace it, to talk about it, to allow it to be a part of me that other people can see and know about, to actively indulge in it in a way that isn't, you know, just shoved to the back of my brain like it was for so many years, has actually made it so much easier to point out the things that I like about myself, the things that I have in common with the other women that I admire, that I'm attracted to. Like, it has become harder to let that like back corner of my brain say nasty things about myself, because it's almost like I feel I'm getting more protective of how that voice speaks about me, because I know that I would never speak to anyone else that way. And that honestly, I love other people for the same reasons the voice in the back of my brain doesn't want me to like me. Does that make sense? Like the same things that I have looked in the mirror and criticized for a lot of my life are these same things that I am drawn to and attracted to in other people, men and women, to be honest. And attraction isn't even everything, right? Like it doesn't actually matter what I am attracted to or what you're attracted to. I feel like it's not nothing, right? Like it's definitely been a comfort to me throughout my life to remember that like in moments where people want to be fucking rude as hell to me on the internet because I'm a plus size person and be like doom and gloom about the prospect of love because of my body, it is a nice reminder to be like, well, I am the living proof that that is just not true, because I'm attracted to plus size people. And though I don't think that's that meaningful grand scale to be like, oh, well, I find this person attractive, so therefore you're a dumbass. Though I don't find it to be that relevant, it's not nothing, right? To be able to acknowledge my attraction to other people, the same traits that I have had a harder time loving in myself, in some ways that is a helpful gotcha for me in terms of like really calling out the bullshit that is sometimes creeps up from the back of my brain. After being in Chicago by myself for a week, I was pleasantly reminded of how much I love going out to eat by myself. So I decided, why not head out for a little solo lunch at one of my favorite Thai spots here in Bushwick. I've lived in New York City for 9 years, and I've lived in Bushwick for the last 5 almost. And in the years I've lived in Bushwick, I've seen so many different businesses pop up in this spot. It used to be an arcade bar, and then it was a Tex-Mex spot, and now it's this Thai restaurant that I am absolutely in love with. So when I see a new small business pop up in my neighborhood, I always try to show out and support it, especially when it's something as fantastic as this Thai place. If you're ever in Bushwick and you're looking for good Thai food, please check out this spot. I promise you won't regret it. I've been trying to try all the different matchas in my area to really assess which one is my favorite. Swallow Cafe. Let's see. I'd say it's second to Sips, but definitely better than Bake Shop. Bake Shop has it with like the bakery items, the bagels specifically are my favorite, but the drinks are just sort of whatever. Sips, really good. This, also a banging option, so it seems. And you know, this really isn't to say that the queer community is some utopia in which fatphobia does not exist. Fatphobia is still very much present in queer spaces, as is everything, right? Like, I think we all like to believe that, no, I'm not this, I'm not that, I'm not fatphobic. I love fat people. I would never be a hateful, judgmental asshole. But like, the truth is, when you live in like a fatphobic world, in a fatphobic society, we all have bits and pieces of that to unlearn and undo, even the people that are the most pleasant to be around. And also, there's just no world where by default queer people struggle less with their bodies. I don't think that's anywhere close to being true. My experience is that of my own, right? I am talking about me. I'm talking about how my life has shook out as a bisexual woman. And that's not to say that there haven't been challenges as well. I've talked before about how I absolutely felt the pressure of being like the ideal bisexual person, the perfect bisexual, knowing that I wasn't and feeling a lot of shame around the fact that I wasn't. Obviously, gender dysphoria is something that a lot of queer people deal with. The journey of accepting who you are and also deciding how public you want to be in that regard is a journey that can take a toll on someone's mental health regardless of anything else. I just want to be clear that multiple things can be true at once. Not that you didn't know that. I know that you did, because you're so smart, and everyone that watches my videos is so smart and gorgeous and always leaves room for nuance. I love that about you guys. With that acknowledged, though, it's really no surprise why queer spaces and spaces sort of disconnected from the male gaze feel more accepting and easier to be in, around, and a part of. When I hang out with other queer women, I feel the most accepted, free to be myself, comfortable in who I am than I do in literally any other group that I am ever a part of. The standards of what is hot or what is cool is so completely different. I mean, it's just a direct product of being in and around communities that aren't centering the male gaze, the straight male fantasy as being the most important. Obviously, I feel more comfortable around spaces where that isn't prioritized. Listen, babe, I'm a plus-size woman with purple hair that notoriously has no problem dressing to draw attention to myself. Do I look like someone that gives a shit about what men think is hot?
And I think something related here, at least a little bit, that's worth mentioning, is how I feel, I think when I was younger, I struggled to engage, initiate, or maintain friendships with straight men. For all of my young life, I really only felt comfortable befriending other women and other queer people. And this had largely to do with how I was picked on growing up. The people that bullied me and made me feel bad about myself were not girls and gays. It was straight men. And I think because that's how I grew up in like the formative years of my life, it took a while for me to even reckon with the fact that I did feel uncomfortable pursuing friendships with straight men. More because I didn't think that any of them would like me. I think I just felt like, oh, there's absolutely no way that straight men would want to be friends with me, that straight men, I don't know, have any interest in me. And obviously that was an insecurity that permeated my dating life as well. But I think it sticks out to me more in like the friendship category because that feels the most prominent. Dating in some ways just feels completely separate to me. I don't know. I think there's a part of my younger self that lingers with me. A part of me that felt sad that boys were so mean to me growing up. All of them. But that's something that I had to work through in therapy when I got older, realizing how being bullied as a kid impacted the way I engage with men, period. And maybe this feels like a disconnected thought, but to me it feels very much intertwined. Number one, because it's part of the reason why I've always felt more comfortable around girls and gays. It is why I've been in queer spaces even before I was openly queer. And I also think it's a part of me that needed to be healed before I could truly step into my most confident self. I couldn't live forever feeling insecure about what I bring to the table with men. The solution there is not to just avoid men for the rest of my life and never befriend them and never date them and neglect that part of my identity. The solution is not to neglect any part of myself. It's to embrace who I am as a whole. And I think a big part of doing that was reckoning with the insecurity that I felt within my relationships to men. And I'm glad I don't feel that way anymore. I'm so grateful for the male friendships in my life that have, helped to rewire my brain a little bit and allow me to trust and open up and feel just as fulfilled in those relationships as I do in my female friendships. But there's also some part of me that feels like my openness to change, my interest in healing my future relationships from the hurt of my past relationships, the courage that it took for me to do that came from my proximity to queer people and queer spaces and how I've observed other people reckon with the same exact things. I was also reflecting with one of my friends from high school about our experience in high school and I don't know, just trying to make sense of it all still all these years later. And even though I hadn't even begun to come to terms with my sexuality while I was in high school, baby, I was a queer-coded teenager. So I also had a moment of realization where I was like, oh, wait a minute.
There reaches a point where it's like, Born This Way by Lady Gaga had too much of an impact on you. What do you mean this is the most incredible, groundbreaking, transformative record of your life? As a straight woman. Get real, bitch. I don't know. Young men famously shit on everything that is widely appreciated by young women. Pair that already being a thing that exists with being a young queer person willing to die on the hill of Lady Gaga fighting with everybody ready to disagree with you in your homeroom, and you make cringe YouTube videos, oh my god!
When I was in middle school and early high school, I think my body had a lot to do with why I was being bullied. Also, my videos, people generally thinking I was weird and uncool. And then I think as I got a little older, it turned into people really not loving how opinionated I was. It's a wonder that it was always men that didn't like me. But there was a big conflict with the color of graduation gowns the senior year that I was in high school. We used to be split by gender. Girls would wear white and boys would wear green. And my senior year of high school, they changed it so that we all wore one color. We all graduated in green gowns to be more accommodating of non-binary folks and trans kids that were not in safe spaces to transition. It's a dumb tradition. There's no reason why we need to wear two separate colored gowns, split it by gender. It is like an unnecessary stressor to some people, and to other people, it is a meaningless fucking color. So who cares? Let's change the color gown and all do green. Let's all wear the color green.
This is a whole fucking story in and of itself that I don't really want to get into in this video. Maybe I'll tell it on my podcast sometime. But this change sparked a whole conflict that my family was at the center of, unexplainably, because my brother is trans, and this was an issue that I stood up for and defended. And I don't think I realized until I got older how moments like that, because that is one of many, how moments like that shaped my own journey to accepting and embracing my own queerness, having been on the defense for queer people my whole young life as the token ally, straight woman. What the fuck is that?
And I'm still learning about and accepting my queerness. I feel very much like a baby in a lot of ways still. And that's kind of a great thing and a fun thing. How I have talked about it to my friends and to my therapist is like, I've had my whole life to understand what being attracted to men means for me, what that attraction feels like, what it looks like, to explore that, to deepen it. And if we're going to compare the timelines, like, I just got here with my queerness, with my attraction to women. I am brand new at exploring this whole thing and indulging in it, and that is so exciting. But I've got, so much more to learn about myself in this era of my life. It's just like so freeing and so beautiful to get to live in a place with so many other brilliant queer people. I know less straight people than I do queer people. It's prolific, actually. A long and winding road to get here, but I'm glad that this is where I ended up. That this is the person I ended up. This is the city I ended up in. And that life feels so much different now than it did back then. And I really do feel like discovering myself as a queer person, going on this journey to uncover this part of myself, has just strengthened my self-image in every way possible.
I decided to spend my evening in a dance class at Good Move, a space dominated by girls and gays that want to flail around to fun music. A nice contrast to a lot of the more common, competitive or bro-y gym spaces. Every class we start with an introduction of names, pronouns, and a secret third question. Today it was, what are we letting go of this week? It's followed by some stretching, a short meditation where the instructor reminds you of how wonderful your body is and how unimportant it will be to get the moves just right. We're here to have fun and be free. That's all. It is in spaces like these that I have felt the most tangible amount of change within how I experience my body. In finding joyful movement, surrounded by people I'm unconcerned of being judged by, I have found a new kind of freedom in celebrating myself as I am now. And it is fucking awesome.